Alright, hello people of the internet. This is going to be a video on installing a web server, hosting a web server rather, off of a Ubuntu or Ubuntu, however you personally pronounce it, Linux distro. So step one is to go to the website, Canonical, well, search for Ubuntu download. Canonical is the parent company. It's free once you download the ISO, depending on which one you get, 64 or 32-bit. Save it somewhere on your computer. Go back into vSphere, which you can check the other video on ESXi and vSphere to figure out how to get here. Create a new VM for it based off the template for that operating system. Start it up, attach the ISO. You can see I've already attached that one there, and let me go to it. I've already got it running. And go ahead and install the operating system for whatever settings you would like. You can customize it as you like. I'm gonna pause the video, and when it gets done installing, we'll continue from there. And we're back. So Ubuntu installed all the way. I booted it into the desktop. There wasn't too much to watch as it was installing. So this is Ubuntu desktop version. Now they do make a server flavor that possibly will work a little bit better for running a web server. When you run in a web server, if it's going to be public facing, there's a lot of security considerations you should take. So a couple things you need to do after you get this installed is to install the web server itself, and then honestly that'll be enough to get you going. But we're also going to install PHP, which is pre-hypertext processor. It's a server-side programming language for the web. There's others out there, ASP. You can do Java. I believe actually Python, C, anything you can think of can actually, I believe, can be ported to the web. I know Python for sure. I don't know about any of the C derivatives, but I'm by no means a web technologies expert, but I know enough to get us going here. So what I did there was Control-Alt-T. That opens up your terminal window. You can also hit the essentially your Windows key, or I think the command key that the Mac, Apple products call it. But you can then search for terminal. Terminal is your command prompt for any Windows users. So from in here you can do a lot of things. You can do ifconfig and see your IP address. You can, Linux is really powerful from the command line, so much so that you can do a lot without the GUI at all. If you do a Control-Alt F2, or I think F2 is the first one. F1? No. Yeah, I guess you can do F1. F1 through, I want to say F6 are different terminal sessions you can open locally, and you can log into these as I'm doing right now, and you do everything you could at the terminal prompt straight here from strictly a CLI environment, to include text editing using the Linux's version VI. I believe there's newer spin-offs. I haven't been too deep into CLI text editors in a while, but VI will let you get in and kind of like a notepad inversion from the CLI though. So we're gonna get back out of here, and I'm actually gonna do it from the CLI. Actually, no, we'll do it here. So we're gonna do a sudo. Sudo, what it does is kind of elevate the current command you're trying to run to root permissions, and that's going to give it full administrative control to make changes. So it's going to prompt us for our password in a second. Sudo apt-get install. When you first install an operating system, by the way, you should do an update and also an upgrade. Those are going to pull a bunch of updates for your operating system that maybe were not in the ISO that you downloaded. So it's going to be good security and software updates. But anyway, install. Let's see, what are we doing? We're doing LAMP server. You can install these manually, but they have kind of complicated names for some of them, especially like the PHP and the MySQL database. I think Apache is pretty straightforward, but anyway, they have this LAMP server, which stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP, I believe is what it stands for. You do have to put a caret at the end there. That up arrow, shift and 6 gives you that character. I'm not sure why, but that seems to be how it's listed, unless that's some sort of wildcard that I'm not familiar with at the CLI that gives you a bunch of sub-dependencies or something along those lines. So once you do that, it's going to prompt you for your sudo password. Boom. You can see all this garbage up here. To scroll through CLI environment, even when it's full screen like this, hold shift, hit page up if you have it on your keyboard. So you can see there's a lot of packages it's looking to install that deal with PHP, MySQL, and Apache. It shows you down below kind of which ones are going to be installed, where it says the following new packages will be installed. So we're just going to go ahead and yes on that. And this may take some time as well, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video once more, and I'll bring it back once we're operational. Then we'll go over to the CLI. Okay, there is a little bit of user input, it appears, for setting things like the root password for MySQL. So just go ahead and follow through any prompts that it hits you with, such as this, and let it do its thing. So I'm going to pause, we'll be back in a minute. Alright, that got done installing, so we are now going to check on our services. Sudo service status all, I believe. Okay. So we see Apache 2 up there. We see MySQL, and I believe PHP will not show up in here because it is kind of just a Apache add-on. I was just looking through to see if I find it, but I don't. Service Apache 2 status. Apache 2 is running, and MySQL had a question mark. I'm not familiar with that output. Start/running 7988. So 7988 is the process ID apparently. So if we do a okay. I must be missing something. Anyway, we'll come back to that later. For now, we got Apache up and running. That's going to give us our web server. So let's go back over to the CLI. I'm doing a Control-Alt-F7, and CLI timed out. And let's go ahead and open up an internet browser. Perhaps. I didn't give this VM very many resources, so alright, we're up. So type in localhost. Localhost is obviously DNS equivalent of 127.0.0.1. You could also type your actual assigned IP address, be it static or DHCP, if you do ifconfig and pull what that is. So there you have it. We pulled the web server, which means we are operational. There's some information on where the configuration layout is for this, etc/Apache 2, and then it tells you where your document root is. This is the one that's going to be more crucial to us. The configuration for Apache, you're going to need to know how to do, know how to work your way around in there if you're doing things like subdomains and certain other somewhat advanced features that you might be handled by typically a cPanel type administration panel or something if you're using a web host provider. Anyway, the var www, that's going to be where our HTML files are stored, and in this case PHP as well. So we're going to go ahead and go there real quick. I'll jump back into a terminal prompt, and we are going to go. We are in my home. We're going to go to /var/www, do an ls, yeah, we're okay, HTML, that's it, and it is a directory. Let's cd into HTML, ls, index.html. Okay, so if we were to do a, I don't know, cat index.html pipe to less or more, whichever you want to do. I like less because I can go up and down. You can see the page that we were just looking at there. You can see there's some CSS up top. A lot of CSS up top apparently, but that's good. That means you're using all div kind of modern browser compliant type design here. And there's all the text we were just looking at. So We'll get into what all this is later, but so that's good. We know that that's where that's at. Let's try and touch a test.php. Oh, okay. Touche. I guess we need to modify some permissions there for our user account, so we don't have to always run sudo. So now in HTML we have test.php. Let's do a vi test.php and type I to switch over to insert. Oh, changing a read-only file. Yep, I should have saw that one coming. Oh man, I just added W. Oh, okay, this is going pretty well. So we're not gonna be able to modify that because I didn't sudo into it. So I'm gonna do a override quit, and it took me right back in. Okay. Alright, found my way out of VI finally. Like I said, it's been a minute since I've been in there, so let's try sudo vi test.php. There we go. Now we can write or modify this file. So I typed I to switch over into input mode. Whoops. And what we're gonna do is create a quick PHP info file. That's a built-in kind of function to PHP that will display every bit of the PHP installation on your web browser when you go to that page. So let's hit escape to get out of input mode, and let's do right quit. Just kidding. What is it, lowercase? Right quit. Okay. So now if you do a cat test.php, you can see our file is there. Let's test it, see if it worked or not. I'm curious to see myself. Localhost / test.php. So there you have it. We kind of roughly made our way in there and edited that file using VI. Now, if you're using a Linux distro with a GUI like this, then you can go to www.html, and you can open this up with your favorite editor. All right, not LibreEdit. That's going to be like the equivalent of Microsoft Word, but perhaps gedit. I'm not familiar with their. Yeah, that's essentially a WordPad type program. So that's cool. So you can go in here and you can do whatever. You know, you can do. It's got some actually decent syntax highlighting for kind of a simple edit. Oh man, and see, here we are again. I didn't we need to change some permissions on the HTML file there, or the www directory rather, to give us permissions to modify these without running the programs as root. But anyway, you get the general idea. So there you have it. We are up and running. The only other thing you're going to need to do if you want to access it from outside of your local network is you're going to need to port forward your home router. Or if you're fortunate enough to have some sort of Cisco configured devices, then you can work with some NATing. But port forwarding essentially will take any request that comes to your public internet service provider address, which you can find by going to what'smyip.net or com or whatever the websites are nowadays. You can Google for what's my IP, and with that IP address, if you port forward on your edge router into the server here, knowing its private IP address, then any client that tries to come in from the outside will come into your server. That opens the door to vulnerabilities, so just make sure if you do that you're thinking about security in mind. The other thing is to know your ports a little bit. 80 is going to be your standard web port. 443 is going to be a secure web port if you're trying to run some sort of a secure website on your server. Also, some ISPs will kind of throttle those ports. Ports that are natively known for running those kinds of services are sometimes throttled on non-commercial accounts, just so that you're not using cheaper internet in order to run business type services such as a web server. I've run into that before personally. I'm not sure on other ones. They might throttle things like SMTP, so you can't run your own mail server and all that. But you can run it on a non-standard port. You can configure Apache to run a web server on 80, 81, or something even more non-native than that. And it'll work, and you can port forward to it. But then the users have to type that port at the end of your IP address or URL. So it's not very clean. So the ISPs kind of get a win there with that one. There's some services like DynDNS, DynDNS. You can go look them up. They provide a service where you can get kind of a host name that redirects to your non-native port without the user really knowing what's going on. So that's kind of cool, but it's not your standard way of bringing a domain into a web server. So DynDNS does keep track of DHCP addresses too, so if you frequently change IPs with your ISP, you don't have to worry about all of a sudden your website going down. So that's setting up a web server with Apache, PHP, and a database in a nutshell to get us started on some web design stuff. If you have any questions, leave some comments, and if not, look forward to the future videos. Thanks for watching.